Okay, guys and gals, today welcome aboard Amwa. That's not the way it's pronounced, though. It's Amwa, A-M-A. Anyway, this is a 1988 Bayliner with twin 175 horse engines, and the reason I want to talk about this today is because I think it's important for people to understand what the difference is between a boat with horsepower and a boat with no horsepower. And I'll walk over to Steve's boat in a minute here and I'll show you, we'll talk about it. But right now, let's talk about so this is a boat, it probably weighs somewhere right around 30,000 pounds. It's got twin 175 horsepower engines in it versus like our boats that have 120 horsepower engines in it. And what do you think the difference is? When I pull this back to reverse right here at 175 horse, what do you think the difference is of what I'm going to feel when I pull that transmission back? It's quite a significant difference, because when you're dealing with one of these boats with 120 horsepower, so twin 120, 30 horsepower engine, with twin 130 horsepower engines in them, there's a huge difference. I mean, when you're trying to make that boat turn, it just doesn't respond as well. But when I crack the throttle, when I have the throttles all the way pulled back on this, and I pull both of these back to go to reverse to pull it out of the slip, I'm gonna feel that. And so then I bump it out, I come forward like this, and I'm gonna feel that with with almost 400 horse in this boat. Now you jump that up to like the Sea Ray that I drive, that you guys see. And that has almost 1,000 horsepower. So when you hit that Carver, or these boats, these a little bit newer boats that have the big 400 horsepower Cummins and Cats in them, and you go to shift these things, throttles all the way pulled back, and you do this to turn the boat, you're going to actually feel that, and the boat's going to respond really, really fast to that. But when you do the same thing on a 115, let's just say a total of 250 horsepower boat, that boat's not going to respond. It's just not going to start doing that. And so you got to be prepared for that. Especially you guys that we'll walk over here to Steve's boat. You can see it in the background over here. We'll walk over to Steve's boat in the middle. But when he has, he has twin 130 horsepower Perkins engines on it. When he does this right here, the response isn't as responsive as like a boat like this. He has to work these throttles a little bit to really get the boat to maneuver. On this boat, you don't have to do that. It's going to respond really, really well, and it's probably going to respond very quickly too. Especially when you're talking about almost 400 horsepower. Now let's walk over to Steve's boat and let's just talk about that for a few minutes, because it is a huge difference. And the reason I'm bringing all this up in a video is because when you're looking at a boat and you're trying to buy one of these 50-foot trawlers with these twin Perkins in them, or these twin Leassons in them with 120 horsepower engines, and there's no thrusters in them, it is a little bit more challenging getting them and maneuvering them in and out of the slips compared to like a boat like this, or a boat like like your Carver or your Sea Ray, those 40, 50 footers that have big high horsepower engines in them. So I'm over here on Steve's boat, and the whole purpose of this is to let you know. So this is my transmissions, and these are my throttles. And when I put this in gear right here and I have my throttles pulled back like this, the boat will respond, but it's going to be very slow compared to a boat with a lot of horsepower. So when I'm pulling out of the slip here, both engines forward, I hit neutral. Now, very quickly, I've got to make a turn coming out of this marine, and I'll show you right here. It almost looks like you can't even make that turn right there, but you can. Now, when you can see there's a little wind today, because you can see that ripple. You can see that ripple on the water right there. So it's going to actually be pushing me away. So it's going to take more power. Now, if this boat had 1,000 horsepower engines in it, no problem at all. When I hit this right here, I do this right here, I come out of the slip, the boat's going to make an immediate turn like this because it's got so much power pushing it. But because these are only 135 horsepower engines, it may take a little bit of motivation, and I may have to just like feather these throttles up just a little bit, just to get that little extra oomph out of them to get this boat to really turn, especially when it's breezy like this right here. So I just wanted to explain that to you, that for you guys, you know, when you're looking at these boats, that, you know, the guy that drives that, let's say, just say a 1990 Carver with twin 350 horsepower Cummins and no thruster, are you guys in the same playing field as buying one of these, let's say, 40-year-old trawlers with twin 120 horsepower leassons or 135 horsepower, you know, naturally aspirated Perkins engines? Are you in the same playing field? And the answer is absolutely not, no way. Because the more horsepower you have, the more maneuverable and easier your boat is to maneuver. When you've got one of these boats like this, because this boat right here, let's just say it weighs 50,000 pounds, you've got that long keel that goes underneath the boat right here, so it takes a lot of volume to get that boat to come around like this right here. So I just want you to pay attention to that. I want you to understand that when you're out there looking for boats. You know, a couple days ago we did a video talking about, you know, do you want a fixer-upper, or do you buy something that's not such a fixer-upper? And then do you want more horsepower or less horsepower? And then how maneuverable do you want your boat? Also, this sometime we're going to talk to Bob. Bob sold the Virginia Hawkeye, and we're going to talk to him about, you know, going with a single engine. And then again, their single engines are different too, because if you go with a 300 or 400 horsepower single engine versus a regular 120 horsepower single engine, it makes a difference. It really does make a difference. That horsepower makes a difference, because you're going to have a higher cruising speeds. The boat's going to respond better, you know, to the rudder. And it's just like anything else, you know, it's the more horsepower you have, the better the boat's going to respond. It's just, there's no way around that. So I just wanted to, like, when you see Steve up here on that video when he was going out, and I didn't get the greatest video, but he's literally he's working these engines. He's doing the best he can do. And that's because this boat weighs 50,000 pounds and he's dealing with naturally aspirated, low horsepower engines, and you know, it takes a lot to get one going. Once you get it going though, you're good. But anyway, I just wanted to share that video with you guys, especially you guys out there boat shopping and looking at these different trawlers and looking at your different options. You know, I want you to think about that when you're looking at these boats. Anyway, peace out. Remember, live life with no regret. I do. You got any questions, please feel free to reach out. And, you know, you can talk to me anytime you want. Anybody can call me. I get calls from all over the U.S. Even now, I get calls from all over the world. So anyway, Paul Bates, peace out. Remember, live life with no regret. I do. And thank you. Have a great day. And make sure you leave that comment. And if you got any questions, please feel free to reach out.